Hey everybody, welcome once again back to the Hometown Historian channel. We are here, it's in the Fishing Creek Valley, a couple miles west of Grantville, Manada Gap region. We're at a Stroh's, I believe it's Stroh's, it's either Stroh's or Stroll's Cemetery. We're at Boyd Big Tree Preserve, it's conservation area. I had stopped here before and I was like, I want to go check this out because maybe it's like old growth trees and stuff like that, but it's like, I guess that's what they're eventually going for. I didn't realize this cemetery was here. They actually had a young Boy Scout. His project was to put a split rail fence around this cemetery, which makes it much more noticeable, so you actually know it's here. And just, I believe, this last weekend, it is Stroh. This is the Daughters of the American Revolution Harrisburg chapter just put up a monument here and just did this. DCNR had it up on their Memorial Lake site, talking about the ceremony that they had here to dedicate this marker. So we're going to look at that, and then we're going to go around the cemetery. There are 2 Revolutionary War soldiers buried here, which is why this monument is here. So here you have the cemetery, and then here you have the monument, and they just did a ceremony for this. So Revolutionary War soldiers buried at the Stroh's Cemetery. Private George Stroh, he was Captain James Murray's company. Colonel Robert Elder, 10th Battalion, Lancaster County Militia, Pennsylvania. Born the 2nd of June, 1741 in Germany. Died the 15th of May, 1819, Dauphin County, PA. The other Revolutionary War vet is Private Christian Stuckey, Captain George Feathers Company, Colonel John Huber, 9th Battalion, Lancaster County Militia, Pennsylvania. Patriotic Service, Oath of Allegiance. Patriotic Service, PA, Supply Tax, 1779. He was born 21st of December, 1745 in Germany, and died the 25th of November, 1828, Dauphin County. And this was placed once again by the Harrisburg chapter of the NSDAR, the Daughters of the American Revolution. And it was April 12th, 2025, just a couple days ago, in celebration of the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. And this split rail fence, like I said, this was put around this cemetery. This was a Boy Scout project, and thank you to the Boy Scouts and to that particular Boy Scout for his service in recognizing this cemetery. And you know, this is one of these cemeteries that they get forgot about, they get neglected, and doing things like this and putting a memorial to recognize these individuals is so essential and so important. And then, you know, hopefully continue restoration efforts. So we're going to walk around this a little bit, and a lot of these I think are pretty worn. This is a cemetery that was sort of let go. There's a guy, his named Ephraim. That's a old school name. And Mary E. I don't see, I guess their name is Stents. So there's a lot of Stenses, Stuckeys, Strohs in this cemetery. I don't know if this is a farmer cemetery, like a farm family plot cemetery. It's a little big to be something like that. There was probably a church here at some point, or you know, it's just a community. I love how little, I guess they're, you guys can correct me, but I think it's a type of violet. Really, really pretty. It's always cool to see some of the old school flowers too that are in these cemeteries. And just the sounds of the birds here towards evening. There's a serenity to these places that you can't find. It's the final resting place of these individuals who came before us. And where the my home, I believe it says my home is above, or I'm not not sure. Maybe if that's what it says, but it has a hand pointing up there, as you can see. And maybe sometimes on the camera, weirdly, you can read it better. Then it just picks it up better than my eyesight, which is horrible, and I now have bifocals. Also, like, you gotta, with bifocals, like sometimes you gotta, like, the closer ones below, farther vision is above, and you sort of get in between, and you sort of go a little nuts sometimes until you get used to it. But apparently they did quite a bit of cleanup. There's clearly some trees that were taken down as well. But, you know, this is, I think the earliest burial here was 1815. Clearly 2 Revolutionary War vets were buried here as well. So this has been here for quite a while and was probably most likely forgotten for quite a while. There are certainly, they're like right there's a stone that was repaired that broke. That's a veteran badge there. It's not really that readable at all. Normally they have in a lot of the cemeteries that have been taken care of, which before I say it, I'll take it back. They actually, I see some of the badges that they have for the veterans. Some of these are that got neglected, don't always have those because they're sort of out here. I mean, this is, you know, I don't know if DCNR takes care of this now or who does. Boy Scouts clearly came out here to start taking care of this, but hopefully continued efforts in that regard to take care of these places, because they deserve to be remembered. And I always love down here in the bottom, you can see the J.H. Black. That's the guy that did the stones. I always find it interesting. You'll find, you know, one of these guys will be the one that does the stones in the area, so there'll be a lot of them that are very similar, or say there's a very unique stone, for instance, and you know, you can see a bunch of them in the local area and be like, okay, cool, this is that person. I've seen those stones before, and that one looks like they're going to pop that back up there. So clearly people are now looking to take care of this cemetery, which is a good thing. I see there's some daffodils over there. This is just so, this is really, really pretty. It's a cemetery clearly that has just starting to be looked after again, but it's got those flowers everywhere. It's just stunning, just pops of purple, you know, in color here, there, and everywhere. I like what they're doing too with this place, is they want to make it so that you have a true, at some point, old growth forest. There's a Valentine Stroh. He's another veteran there. And at some point here, maybe as early as the 25th, which is coming up here shortly, that's the 1-year anniversary of my mom passing. I think I'm going to see if Debbie is interested in going up to Millersburg and us going and stopping by Mom's grave, of course, Mom and Dad's, but also go and stop by our grandparents, Mom's mom and dad, and just go out to eat, make a day of it, and just celebrate Mom. You know, Millersburg, that was, she absolutely adored Millersburg. The ferry won't be running yet, but it'll still be one of those cool things to be able to go and just remember Mom and all she meant to us. Here's one of these red stones. These are the ones, probably the oldest ones in the lot here. I like how it has the, you know, they couldn't afford anything more, and it just says CG on it. Sorry about the finger there. That does happen. I think that's a Stucky. I'm trying to see. It looks like born 1716. That looks like death would be in 1825. So that's not the earliest one. There's a, almost looks like a martin. Something soon after war, 61. So I don't know if that's talking about revolution or... Here's an American Revolutionary soldier. So that's one of them. Sons of the American Revolution. And this is I believe this is George Stuckey. Yep. This is George Stuckey. Very, very cool. That's one of the two, or not George Stuckey, it's the Stuckey who was the second guy on that memorial. So we're looking for George Stroh. That would be the other gentleman that fought in the revolution that is in this. I don't know if the other guys, there's another Stroh. Oh, jeez. Okay, that was different. I grabbed a hold of this top piece. Whew. Andrew A. Hoover, so he would have probably been World War I. There you can see another one of those tops that's no longer on top. Another veteran. Problem is with so many of these is like you just can't read them. They're so aged, and when you have a cemetery for a long period of time has not been looked after, you know, unfortunately, you just over time they degrade so much that you really can't. And there's a bunch of two vets here. Geraldine Stroh, I would assume World War II, and then Oscar Henry Stroh. He was definitely World War II and Korea. She served in the military, but let's see. Here's another. This is interesting because there's actually a couple people here that have been buried in the last 20 years here. There's Millie Stroh Valentine, Simon H. Stroh, Alice Feaster Stroh, and they have the daffodils here. Sort of wonder if like the George Stroh is in here somewhere. I mean, maybe the stone doesn't exist anymore. And it's a Ralph Edward Valentine. This is another example of a family here of veterans, you know, from going back way, way back in the American Revolution to serving and, you know, through into World War II. You know, Korea, Vietnam, this whole family continued to serve. I'm very proud of their service, as they should. Yeah, because I didn't see, it was just that one stone over there, the Stuckey. I'll have to look it up. And if I find something else information-wise, I wouldn't be surprised, too, if they're calling it the Stroh Cemetery, if this originally started out as a family cemetery and then eventually evolved into a community cemetery. They opened it up. Because that was not uncommon. But needless to say, it's very, very cool. Let me see here. That's a Revolutionary War badge there, and that's one here. I don't know how I missed. Yeah, I missed this one completely. Yeah, here he is. Alright, sheesh. Never mind. Yeah, we went past this one I almost tore the top off of. This is George Stroh. Yeah. So that's two men. And the one Stuckey buried there, and George Stroh buried here. And they both served honorably. Makes sense because this looks like this would be the oldest because it being these red stones, red sandstone, and being that it has like the crown at top. I always talk about that's a Revolutionary War era type thing. So who knows? I mean, it's cool though that the rest of the Stroh family continued to want to be buried here because of their history. Really is something. So it was cool coming on a little bit of adventure here and finding these particular graves. I just saw on Sunday, I think it was Saturday or Sunday, I saw the whole thing for the DCNR. I don't know, DCNR put it up Memorial Lake, but for the Daughters of the American Revolution, that they were up here putting up that monument. And you know, like I said, the last time I drove up this road to go up, it's up that way where they have the actual preserve. But I didn't see this the last time. I mean, it was probably really overgrown, and they've just started fixing it, put up the fence and took down some trees and things like that. And now it's cut down. So you can actually go around the cemetery, see the stones that are standing, which most of them are standing. I mean, there's a lot of empty areas here which aren't actually empty. There's probably people all over here where it's empty, but it's just the stones have fallen, worn away, and maybe even there's some underneath the sod on top here. But regardless, this is another one of these historic cemeteries. Has two of our American Revolutionary War vets buried here. Just some very beautiful monuments here, and just so much of life here in the Fishing Creek Valley, generation upon generation, is right here in this cemetery. And it's important that we honor those that came before us and come into places like this to remember them and just walk about and then enjoy the peace, the serenity of this place. It's unquestionable. So as always, I want to say thanks for coming along, and we'll see you all about town.